discretion is advised.
This video is not intended for children. Viewer discretion is advised.
If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings, one and all, and welcome to Mornings of Mischief. I am your host, Stone Loki. Good morning, everyone, and a big good morning to Rambling Canuck and Vance Major Owen. Greetings, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I tell you what, that intro gets me going for some Star Trek in the morning.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I love getting to do shit like that. And good morning to Lady Mist. Good morning, Lady Mist. Purple Valkyrie. Good morning. June Wong. Hello. Dave Bob. My brother from another mother. Larry. Dave G Sound. Arwen Avalon. Good morning, Lady Arwen. Good morning, everybody. I hope you all are having a great day. Speaker for the dead. How are you doing, brother? Adega Outlaw, the doctor of disaster and destruction, is here. Ladies and gentlemen, Psychodorf 9. Good morning, brother. How are you doing? Mark, the infinitely tired, is here. How are you doing, Mark? Guys, thank you so very much for being here. Snortopupus Cuber, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Eris of Chaos is here, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all are having a great week so far. It is Tuesday, and Tuesday is time for Trek Talk.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about season 4. Guys, if season 3 was a great season for TNG, season 4 is a great season for Star Trek as a whole. One of the best seasons of Star Trek. And you guys open it up with Best of Both Worlds Part 2. The conclusion to last season's cliffhanger with the Borg. You've got family, brothers, Remember Me, Legacy, Reunion being one of my favorite episodes of all time. Because of course you get that scene with Worf, screaming.
Yes.
Damn, some fine Trek. So let's start things off with the Best of Both Worlds Part 2. What did you guys think of the conclusion for Best of Both Worlds?
For me, and I think I might get a little hate for this one, but for me, I like Part 1 more than I ever liked Part 2 because I go back to that point in time And I remember like that whole off season, we're all sitting around and, it's everyone, all us nerds are talking about at school. And, is Picard coming back, or are they writing him off the show? And we had all these, different storylines in our head and how it was going to go. And I don't know, to me, it just kind of wet farted on its way out. but the rest of the season was good. It was just like, oh, part 2 wasn't as good as part 1. And you waited so long for it, and then it was just, oh.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there's anything that they could have done that would have made part 2 as good as part 1. I think our expectations were just blown away because this was a point in time that nothing like part 1 had happened before, where it ends on a cliffhanger, and we were just left in suspense. We didn't even know if Patrick Stewart was coming back. So, the captain of the Enterprise is gone. The Earth is attacked. The Borg is here. Like, is this now? Are we going to have to fight off an invasion? Like, what does this mean for the future of Star Trek just in general? So, I mean, our expectations were so high. I mean, this literally set the bar for what our expectations were for a two-parter. So I don't think you're far off on your expectations as a kid, because you're sitting there thinking, what now? And then you get there and you're like, oh, that's it. It's kind of weak sauce.
Yeah, it was
it wasn't bad.
Well, and like the problem with part 2 was really, I think there could have been 4 parts to that, because they could have dived into it a little bit more, but it was just, okay, we got to wrap this up in 2. So the first one was building all the suspense, and then the second one was tying up all the loose ends, and it just seemed like there's more to this story, but we're only getting the cliff notes.
Well, like I had said last week, what I would do with season 4 is make an entire story, the entire season a story arc with how do we deal with a Federation that's being invaded by the Borg, and have that be part of the story arc with Shelby, with the Enterprise, and have like 3 or 4 episodes where we're just being invaded, and 3 or 4 episodes where we're we're patching up the Enterprise, dealing with getting everything back where it should be. Is Picard even going to come back to Starfleet? Take the time to deal with these character moments and issues, and not necessarily explore space, but explore ourselves. Because after this very personal moment, you can take the time to have the whole season be about human adventure. To me, I would have taken the whole season, or at least half the season, to explore these issues. And then by the end of the season, maybe the last quarter of it, have the crew kind of not fully trusting Picard, but have him be the captain of the Enterprise again. And then, the last couple episodes, they come to realize, okay, he's not Locutus anymore, and he's earned our respect back, but have it be the full arc. And I think instead of one episode, one and done, you take your time to get there, but I mean, we do have Best of Both Worlds Part 2, and then they gave us Family, which is a nice trilogy. And people tend to forget that not Family. I think, no, it was a Family.
Yeah, it's Family.
Yeah. That was the third part of Best of Both Worlds. It could have been Best of Both Worlds Part 3. If it had something to do with Borg, but I mean, that's basically the end cap of this episode. Where Picard's at Earth and he's like, do I go back, or should I stay, or do I go to the sky with the Enterprise, or under the sea with trying to find Atlantis? And so again, I think they kind of rush things, but again, television was very different than it is now. If it was done now, it'd be very different, I think.
The episode that comes after that is Brothers, and a big thing with brothers is you have never really seen everything that Data can do.
Mm.
And in moments, Data has taken over the Enterprise. He has gotten everybody off the bridge. He's taken over the Enterprise completely. He's locked everyone out, and there is absolutely nothing they can do about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
when he's sitting there and he's like, "This is Captain Picard, code 00050009 Alpha, Omega, blah, blah, blah," and you're like, "Holy shit!"
Dude, it was cool. It was cool. Like he really posed Data in a light that you've never seen him before, and like he's threatening, but you want to be Data because you're like, oh, he's cool. He's so cool. Yeah. It was one of those, and then Lore shows up. And that blows your mind because like, what the hell is this shit? Oh my god, that's one of my favorite episodes because I loved Lore in Data Lore, and I think the one thing about season 4 that I love is the fact that it returns to Trek in so many ways. We have, of course, the Picard stuff, which gives you a very intimate look into the life of Picard, which is not something that we do very often. We get Data Lore, which is returned to season 1, Nod. We get a look at Worf with Reunion. I think it's Reunion.
Yeah, it's Reunion. Yeah. Jonathan Frakes directed that episode
too. And then we also get Remember Me with the Traveler, from season 1. Again, another season 1 nod. And then we get the episode with Tasha Yar's sister. Again, another season 1 reference or an earlier season. So we're in a lot of these episodes, especially early on in the season, the first half of the season is referencing earlier works of Next Gen. So you talk about this being not only great Next Generation Star Trek, but just great Star Trek in general. It is because it's one of the first time where it's constantly being self-referencing. And it's just great because as a Star Trek fan, you're sitting there going, yeah, we've been here. The only other time it's really kind of done that in the past is maybe with Harry Mudd references, in an episode where they're like, oh yeah, we know Harry Mudd, and that's about it. That's about as much passing reference as they do in the old series. But they don't really do that. But this, we're constantly referencing old things that have come in the past and we're updating them, for the future. And as a fan at the time, again, we didn't really do that. But going back to Data Lore, he takes over the ship, and that little boy that gets, he learns that lesson of, brothers forgive. It's a very touching moment. Again, for the android that doesn't have emotions. Like, dang it! It
does.
it gets you choked up, man. It's a great lesson.
Meeting their creator, though, too, meeting their father, basically, and him dying. He's dying, and he wanted to do something for Data before he died, and ends up backfiring on him. It ends up that emotion chip ends up going to Lore, and that carries on. That carries on into the future. It carries on into
Descent,
and into First Contact and Generations.
Yeah.
Well, this was the first time that Brent Spiner had played 3 parts because he played, of course, Data and Lore, but then he played Soon. I mean, if you're a Brent Spiner fan, which of course I am, ever since his days on Night Court, I loved him as. Oh shoot! What was Bob? Bob was the character's name on Night Court. I mean, Brent Spiner was great on that show. If you guys have not seen it, I'd recommend go on YouTube, Brent Spiner Night Court, and then look at how versatile of an actor he is. I mean, he's just so good. But if you didn't know that was Brent Spiner under the makeup for Dr. Soon, I mean, this is the first time. I mean, a guy that can act against himself, twice over, like he's such a good actor, it's first time in Star Trek I think it's been done. You know,
And a big hello and kapla to Bird of Prey 5 and Professor Brainy Specs. Welcome, guys.
Welcome.
what's up, guys?
The reunion kind of blew me away the first time. I love Klingons. It's probably my favorite episode of the season. It's either this or The Wounded. I love both of those episodes. But seeing Kalar return, finding out Worf had a son with her, and his conflict with that. The fact that he's been he's received discommendation. He is shunned in the Klingon Empire. If anyone found out that this was his kid, he would carry on that, and his children, his grandchildren would carry on that too. And the fight with Duras. The fight with Duras, the first episode, you meet Gowron. Gowron's going to be around for a long time.
Yeah, Gowron's here to stay.
So I always loved I always loved that legacy with Tasha Yar's sister. Like Vance was saying, there is a lot of hey, what happened here, and hey, we're going to talk some more about this. We're gonna have some more of this. We're gonna bring in Tasha's sister. We're gonna bring in Worf's son. We're gonna bring back Kalar. We're gonna bring back Lore. The Lost is, or the not the Lost, but The Wounded is the first real episode. You get a lot of O'Brien in this episode.
Yeah,
and a lot of that. This is the first episode with the Cardassians too, and this would carry.
They had those. It had Mark Alamo in it, and they had those weird, funky mustaches and those awkward uniforms. Like, I'd love to have seen those uniforms come back in some small way in DS9. Those clunky-looking, bulky uniforms. Those are kind of. I mean, those are ugly, but very alien-looking. The thing going back to Reunion, you had, ever since you guys have talked about how the actress who was playing Kalar, she played Dr. Solar, and she was supposed to be like, that was supposed to be a love interest for Worf. Like, I actually, like, if I hadn't have known that little fact that you guys told me, I wouldn't have even cared about this picture. But this proves to me my phone is listening to me, because this showed up in my feed, a picture of Dr. Solar and Worf, and I was like, holy shit, this is cool. So I posted it, and I was like, guys, this is so cool, you know. And again, I would have just skipped past it because I didn't really care for, the picture didn't mean nothing to me. But I have such an appreciation for that actress who played Kalar. And that episode right there set up a lot for, future Worf episodes, especially DS9 stuff, with Alexander, the Klingon stuff with Gowron, just the honor in itself. You can't really put... for the Klingon episodes that we've gotten, you've got the one with Riker exploring the Klingon Empire. You've got the earlier one where he loses, his family's honor, and then you've got this one. Every Klingon episode has been kind of far and few between, but they really pack a punch. And at the end, when he goes to fight Duras, like, that was an intense fight, and that was something that was rarely done on Next Gen. I don't know. To me, that was one of those, like, oh shit moments. I mean, because Worf just murders a guy, and I think that's something that's. I mean, I know Picard reprimands him, but that's part of their culture. And Worf flat out does it because of what Duras did to Kalar.
And they weren't even going to let him do it, and were ignoring him until he claimed the right of vengeance, because that was his mate. And that's something that like even Duras's crew looked at him like, oh shit, you in trouble now.
Yeah. You
gotta
done
fight him.
screwed up, boy.
You have no choice. You have no choice. You got to fight him now. If that was his mate, then yeah, he has the right to. It doesn't matter whether he's discommendated or he's received discommendation or not. You've got to fight him.
But I mean, this is the first time. Like every other episode, like Worf gets his ass handed to him.
Yeah.
You know, this is the first time like Worf like kicks some ass. He gets the prowess of, I'm this proud warrior, I'm this ass kicker, but he gets his butt kicked a lot, and he gets shut down by Picard an awful lot. But this is the first time where he just balls to the walls, just unleashes on someone, and it's a great fight. But the fact that he went to he took it to Duras and was like, nope, to hell with Starfleet. I'm doing this. Like I said, it gets kind of gleamed over. And it's something that also gets kind of gleamed over is the fact that Starfleet is more than just humans. It's a bunch of aliens working together, and sometimes the culture overshadows the fact that we're working together. And that's very important,
Also the fact that Picard doesn't want anything to do with the job he has been given by Kempek. He has been put in charge of who is going to be the next Klingon, the next head of the High Council, and Picard does not want that. He's like a Starfleet officer deciding who the next leader of the Klingon Empire is going to be. No, I don't want anything to do with it. And he's got to do it because he was Worf's Chadich at his trial. Kempek's like, you're the only one I can trust, bitch. So it's you.
Yeah, deal with it.
I hope if I get yelled at by someone, I'm just going to call you and be like, look, talk to me in your Picard voice and tell me this bad news. Because I love every time you do a Picard impression. It's
Starfleet was founded on the principles. Yeah. All right, Picard.
Oh, Lord. But no, like that episode, and then we going talking to I think it was Legacy, the one with Hashiyar's sister.
Yes.
It makes you yearn for the what if of Tasha Yar, and at least for me, it kind of was like, well, maybe if they have this actress join the crew, maybe it's kind of like having Tasha back. You kind of start lowering your bar of what's acceptable, or that was me at least as a kid, because I was so desperate to have a Tasha Yar type character, and obviously we weren't going to get Yesterday's Enterprise again, but it really made you realize how much you at this point missed Tasha, even though she hadn't been part of the crew, and I don't think it's something you could have really gotten away with in season 2. Season 3, of course we had Yesterday's Enterprise, so I don't think it was appropriate. But by this time, they don't really talk about Tasha. And I feel like it was really appropriate to be like, hey, we missed her. Let's talk about this for a minute, because they had some really good character moments when they kind of open up about, this was a crew member, she passed away, and she meant something to us. They have some really nice character moments.
They did, and I believe there is somewhere in here. There is the episode with. Was it this season? I'm trying to. Yeah, The Mind's Eye. The Mind's Eye, where Geordi is brainwashed, and you get your first glimpse of the person in the shadows that ends up getting brought out at the end of Redemption, which is Sela, Tasha's daughter. What the hell? It's Romulan Tasha.
Well, and that was also again a great Romulan episode. The fact that Geordi's just sitting there chilling in his shuttlecraft, just doing God knows what. Certainly if I had 6 hours alone in a shuttle, I wouldn't be doing that.
Listening to the merengue.
Oh yeah. just again, I think that goes to show how awkward Geordie just is in general. I love LeVar Burton, but Geordie's just an awkward fellow sometimes. But he sits there, turns around, and then all of a sudden, bam, Romulan Warbird. It's like, oh shit, But you feel bad for him because he's got those hidden messages to assassinate that Klingon leader guy, to start some shit between the Romulans and the between the Klingons and the Federation, and it really is smart planning on the Romulans' part because that's a throwback all the way to TOS of, they just want to start shit between the Klingons and the Federation, like they don't like the peace, and it's just a really great setup for what's to come in. Is it Redemption Part 1 and 2 that's coming?
Yes.
Redemption. Yeah. So again, like they're really planning these story arcs out for the whole season. Another one that I really liked. It's a standalone episode, but I really enjoyed it because you're kind of sitting there and you're guessing the whole time of what the fuck is going on. Is Remember Me?
Yes.
And having the Traveler come back is kind of a cool thing, but to me that was never really the great part of the episode. The thing I really loved is the fact, like, I'm actually sitting there thinking about, well, how would a starship function if you had no chief of security or if it's just the captain and the doctor the whole time on a crew that should hold 1,000 people, like, and Picard's like, we've never needed a crew before. Like, how does that even work? Like, as a kid, like, you're sitting there thinking about all these things. I really loved, her bringing people up, and they're like, wait, who are you talking about? To me, that was more interesting than the ending, even though I enjoyed the ending. It was just a great premise for, it felt very Twilight Zone-ish to me.
Yes, very, very Twilight. What would happen if people started disappearing from your life and nobody remembered them? Yes.
Yeah, that's a very, and that's, to me, it's also kind of, it's very terrifying, because some people, when they have memory issues, it's got to be what they go through, and it's like, oh shit, you would never want that to happen. That's a scary ass thing to even consider. To me, I think it's just a great premise for science fiction in general, to be like, this is one of the absolute, regardless of what's out there in space, sometimes it's these personal stories that are the most terrifying. Sometimes it's not a creature in the hallway that you got to be fearful of. Sometimes it's the, hey, where did so-and-so go? What are you talking about? Like, that's that one question, what are you talking about, is the most terrifying sound in the world. Great premise. Great story.
What did you guys think about the Nth Degree with Barclay getting not only super intelligence, but like super
everything
confident? Yeah.
Rambling, you go, because I've been rambling, no pun intended.
The Barclay episode, I'm kind of so on. Like, it's good, but at the same time, it's like, okay, this is like you take the most awkward person and you go, okay, this is how they dream. One day they wake up and they can do everything. Just an interesting dynamic. There were some slow parts in that episode, but for the most part, it was good.
Broccoli, Lieutenant Broccoli.
Yeah, Broccoli. Yeah, that guy. Poor guy.
I liked it because I again, we're making a callback to an earlier season with Barclay, and again, we're telling kind of a fish out of water tale with this character, and it's the thing that I love about Next Generation, especially at this point, is you have so many characters to choose from of what story should we do. Luaxana Troy, Q, O'Brien, Barclay, Hell, even, you know, put a blonde Romulan wig on Denise Crosby and let's call her Sela. Like, you have so many different characters to just call back to, and or bring back in weird ways. You know, so your extended ensemble casts, you know, is growing to such a degree, that wouldn't be rivaled until you get to DS9, because that had a huge ass cast. But the nth degree, um, I really enjoyed that episode because it showed, you know, the potential that, you know, that character can have if he was confident. You know, he's a great actor. You know, he's kind of a ladies' man. You know, because you know, even though it is an alien influence, it's still Barclay. You know, granted, now the intelligence part, okay, it's not really him. It's an alien influence doing all that shit. You know, but I mean, the confidence and stuff. I have to believe that, you know, you know, deep down underneath all that, you know, the cowardice and whatnot. Once you wipe that away, like, he's just like everybody else. He's just not there yet, but he hasn't matured to that point. You know, so I really enjoyed getting to see people reacting to Barclay kind of, you know, being the ladies' man or being the confident, you know, because they're not used to that. You know, and him just acting like, oh, this is normal. You know, to me, it's very fun, especially considering the other time we saw him. You know, it's that, you know, broccoli reference.
Yeah.
You know,
Broccoli.
to me, it's great fun because when you see characters like that, like, you're not meant to take them too seriously. So I don't take the episode too seriously because, of course, if you think about it, you know, then your brain's kind of like, well, wait, we can use this technology to do this, or we can do this, or we can do this. You know, it's meant to be just a fun, lighthearted episode. So I take it in the context in which it was. It's a good episode, I think. But yeah.
Well, episode shortly after that, the Drumhead is not a lighthearted, fun episode. It is a very, very serious episode with deep implications of when you are pointing your fingers at a group of people in a room.
Oh, yeah.
That admiral. I watched this episode last night. This was the last episode of this season that I watched. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to make sure I had gotten refreshed on it. Admiral Nora Seti comes aboard the Enterprise, and you've got a Klingon exchange officer that has been sending information to the Romulans. They point their fingers at this young ensign that is supposed to be half human, half Vulcan, but he's not. He's half human, half Romulan. And they go after him just because of his family. They have absolutely no proof that he helped this Klingon at all. They have no proof that he was involved with the destruction of part of the warp core on the Enterprise that they believed was sabotaged, which it wasn't. It was a defect in the manufacturing of this part for the warp core. And yet they're blaming people just because of their family. They even go after Worf. They use Worf in this episode. The Admiral and her staff use Worf as this, like, we want you to get to the truth. And then by the end of this, they're blaming him because because of the Kittimer incident with his father. So they're blaming people and calling them out just because of their family. Does your family make you guilty of something? And Picard goes off, man.
Oh, this is a Picard sit you down, you know, yell at you and scream at you and, you know, make you feel like an inch tall speeches that he gives every once in a while. Yeah, this was, I need to feel like I'm back on Broadway, so we need to, like, ramp some shit up, please. So,
there are serious implications for, regardless of what side of the political spectrum that you're on. like you can sit here and watch this episode and then look at today's society and say,
You can look
this
at this
applies.
episode and go, oh, so that's how Twitter was born.
Guilt,
Um,
guilt by birth, guilt by association.
Yeah.
You don't have to have any facts.
No.
Yeah, and speak of the dead, the speech he gives to the psycho is epic. Yeah, Admiral Norris said the Star Police mission is full of truth, whether it be physical truth or it's
Yeah, because the speech here is one of the ones that is when you go online and you talk about, you know, great Picard speeches. This is always one of the ones that goes to the top, because it's truth, you know, and that's the thing. Like, people can have an opinion. Opinions can change with time, and experience, but truth doesn't really change. Truth is always there. Facts are always there. You know, and that's the thing. Like, this guy did nothing wrong, and they're going after him. And that's not what Starfleet is about. Starfleet is about truth. They're about facts, and facts matter. Opinions, you know, you cannot like this guy because of his family, and that's okay. You know, you don't have to like him because he's a Romulan. That's okay. You don't have to like Worf because he's a Klingon. That's okay. You don't have to trust Worf. That's okay. That's your opinion. But the facts are, they've done nothing wrong. Those facts don't change because your opinion. And that's very relevant to today, regardless of what, you know, political or religious or whatever belief system you have. And that's something that I feel that is missing from Star Trek today. It doesn't have those same philosophical discussions, or very subtle thought processes that make you just sit there and think and go, wow, you know, this apply, you know, this is talking about this subject, but it really applies to all these other ones, and it makes you think about the what ifs, in a way that classic Trek, going all the way back to the original series, did. So this is a very classic episode, a very relevant, to a lot of different things, you know. A really good episode, thought provoking to say the least.
It is. It really is. And but like you said, the speech when the Admiral walks out, when Admiral Norris said he is going on and on, they're guilty, they're all guilty, everyone's guilty. And the Admiral just like shakes his head, turns around, walks out of the room. Yeah, it's over, bitch. Yeah,
I just want you to know. I just want you to know that they're guilty. How you said that, I'm gonna soundbite that. So when my wife walks in and she's like, "He didn't do the dishes. Vance didn't do the dishes," I'm just gonna play that. They are guilty. They are guilty.
They're all guilty.
That's my response for everything now, brother.
Speak of the dead, but what about my truth? Yeah.
Yeah.
Facts over fifis. Yes, Arwen. Facts over fifis. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So this season also brought us something that, 2 episodes that one episode, because I don't think that one episode was in this one. It might have been. But I know one episode was in this season that really crushed me as a kid. I was like, oh no, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. And it was the episode Wesley Crusher leaves, final mission.
Yes.
And I, as a kid, I was like, they can't do this. This is Wesley Crusher. Who's gonna save the ship now? Because it's can't leave Wesley. And he fucking left. This was it. What did you guys think of how they had him for his final mission? Just kind of chilling with Picard in this cave. To me, I felt it was kind of lackluster for the character. To me, I didn't feel like it was a very good send off for the actor. I don't know. Like I saw a thing last night for Will Wheaton that said when the actors were lobbying for raises, they had told him, "Hey, instead of a raise, why don't we make your character a lieutenant?"
Well, I guess it's a raise in a way.
And he said this is the equivalent of like someone getting an extra piece of flair for their uniform. You know, and that instantly reminded me of that movie. Oh shoot, what's it called? Office Space. Where you get
Stapler.
yeah, yeah, where they got flair for their uniform. Jennifer Aniston has flair for her uniform. Like that's instantly what the rank now reminds me. Like every time I look at my uniforms rank, like that's what that reminds me of. It's just flair, you know. But I thought that's to treat someone. You know, I mean, this is the same guy that was in the movie Stand by Me. Like to treat someone of that caliber, just to, you know, if he was an adult, there's no way you would have made that case to him. Hey, we'll make Commander Riker a captain instead of giving you a raise. Like I could never see you doing that to Jonathan Frakes. I just
went, we'll let you direct. Shut up. That's what they did to Jonathan Frakes.
right.
We'll let you direct. Shut up.
But to me, I thought that was always kind of crappy, to kind of treat an actor, you know, undeserving. And I had heard that he was not.
I was just disappointed that he didn't get pushed out an airlock.
And I can see that from you, Rambling.
I mean, we got him to go away and he didn't go out an airlock. What the hell?
I felt
You mean there's a way for him to come back? Damn it! Oh man.
I felt like this was kind of like almost a remake of the earlier episode where he's at Starfleet and he's doing the tests, and he has to do that test where he goes in and he saves that guy and he has to leave the guy behind. This is another like almost like a wannabe Kobayashi Maru test. You're in the unwinnable scenario, but he did it anyway.
Right.
You know? And the water thing, oh well, you've got this shield, and anytime you touch the shield, it's gonna react and kill you because you want this water, and that water is going to be the only way they survive in this desert until someone can find them. I just thought it was it's a letdown of an episode, and I know how you feel. When I was 8 and 9, I liked Wesley. I don't now. I think he's really annoying, but at the time, yeah, he was my connection to the ship because he was the kid and I was a kid and I was a kid watching it. So, to be the, oh, well, Wesley's leaving the ship, even though he comes back, he'll come back. He comes back in that weird ass episode with the glasses.
The game. Now, is that this season or is that next season?
No, that's next season.
Okay.
Yeah, that's next season. He'll come back in the game, and he'll come back again later. That one had what's her name in it too, the blonde. That's
Ashley Judd.
Yes, Ashley Judd.
Robin Leffler. Yeah.
Damn, you lucky bastard, Wesley. You lucky little bastard, Wesley.
He's come a far cry from those ugly sweaters from season 1 to going to Robin Leffler.
Oh.
But then he ends up with the Traveler. What the fuck is that?
Yeah. And you don't see him again until Nemesis. Yeah.
But then that gets deleted.
And there's no explanation. Wait a minute. What? Wesley's back? When did Wesley get back? Yeah, we're not going to tell you. We're just going to throw him in the wedding. Well, everybody gets to come back in the wedding.
Well, see, like from what I'm told, and I don't know because I haven't read the book, but from what I'm told, one of my friends said no. He was like, in the book, Wesley shows up with the Traveler, but he shows up naked, so they have to give him a dress uniform so that he has some clothes. And I'm like, stop talking. Just fucking. I don't want to read the book now. I'm good. Stop talking. I don't care.
Too much information. No.
Because I was like, why is he back in Starfleet? That doesn't make any sense. Like, that's kind of odd. And he was like, oh, he's not in Starfleet. He's not. Oh, it's so cool how he got in the. It's so cool. I'm like, well, what happened? Enlighten me. And then he's like, oh, he didn't have any clothes. I'm like, okay, first off, what's he doing with the Traveler that I? Never mind. I don't want to know. This is
yeah.
This is some weird fan fiction shit. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh God.
Shipping before shipping. Help!
Captain Picard, I don't have a uniform.
Shut up, Wesley. Get the boy a uniform.
But we did get did we get a Q episode this season? Is this
Cupid.
the Robin Hood season?
Yes, this is the Robin Hood season.
Okay.
Yes, this is Cupid. The return of Bosch and Q, this is where Bosch goes with Q. And you get Cupid, you get the Robin Hood, and that, Captain, I am not a merry man.
Yeah.
I protest. I'm not a merry man.
You're giving us so many good sound bites. I feel like we could just make a Loki soundbite of you being all these Klingons, and then we would have our own, a full hour show. I like this, Loki. I like it.
Well, I love this season. I really do. And Worf walking up to Geordi and grabbing the loot and smashing the shit out of it. Oh my God! Yes.
Yeah, it's a good. The thing about Q, like, he always has those lighthearted moments. Those lighthearted episodes. But I feel like you kind of need those within some of the darker, fuck, man. I mean, we got Geordi getting hypnotized by fucking Romulans. You got, Worf losing his wife, and killing Klingons left and right. You got Picard getting assimilated, and then you get a Q episode, and you're like, okay, everything's right in the world. Which is why next season, when we don't get a Q episode, you're like, where's Q? So yeah, this season, I felt like the Cupid one was really good because, he proves his love for Vash, and then, again, another callback, two callbacks, one to Q, one to Vash, two characters that you wouldn't really think they'd go together until you sit and think about it, and you're like, oh yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect,
I loved watching the old Robin Hood and the old, Will Scarlet and the fights up the stairs, and that's perfect for Picard. Oh, I'm gonna grab a sword and I'm gonna go to work.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's call back to the the Shakespeare play days of Patrick Stewart's it's right up his alley. That's what he likes to do.
Also the TOS guys. I said this when we did the first episode of this, and we talked about season 1. I felt something was missing because I felt like TOS had this swashbuckling adventure. You had Sulu fencing in the hallways, and you had the fights with the Klingons, the sword fights with the Klingons. And to me, the original series was like this. As a kid, it was swashbuckling adventure. It was Sinbad of the Seven Seas, and it was all these things, and then that was missing. And then you bring in an episode like this where there's sword fights, and they're in Sherwood Forest, and you've got them dressed up. Will is Will Scarlet, and it's all these things that are coming together that I'm like, oh my God, this so makes me think of the original series again.
Well, the thing about Next Gen is at least by, I'd say, season 3, it's very much grounded in science. It kind of gets that way in season 2, but they kind of it's a little out there in some of their science and techno babble and whatnot. But by season 3, they definitely have their shit down on these are the rules and the laws of the universe. Shirtless Sulu, oh my. But by season 3, season 4, they've got the laws of the universe down. We clearly have the establishment. And the thing that I enjoy about the Q episodes, especially this one, is it breaks that. It goes back to, like you said, the wonder of the original series where things don't exactly necessarily make sense. It has that wonder of what exactly is going on, the unexplored stuff that science can't explain. We don't have all the answers, because at least by season, the end of season 3, season 4, it's beginning to feel like we may not have experienced everything, but we are ready to chart it. Kind of like what Picard was saying in season 2 in Q, where we're ready to meet it. And that's kind of how this feels. So when you get these random episodes of like, what the hell is this? It's a breath of fresh air. And that swashbuckling of a different era, it's very much a fish out of water for these characters. It's kind of like Star Trek 4 for the original series crew. They don't know what to expect in this world. It's not their element.
Let's talk about the last episode in this season, Redemption Part 1, and Worf leaving. Did you think Worf was actually going to leave?
No.
It never even entered my mind. I wasn't even thinking on that level. I was just taking everything in. Because to me, it like nothing, like everything Klingon didn't really make sense to me. So I'm just sitting there eating it up as a kid. But to see Worf walk down with the armor down the hallway, it was disbelief, because it's like, well, what are they going to do for Chief of Security now? To me, I thought, is he going to come back? Like, how do you come back? You just quit your job, and now you're going with the Klingons. Like, how do you come back from that? To me, it wasn't as big as Best of Both Worlds Part 1, losing Picard, but it was a shock. I didn't know what to expect going forward, because it's like, you just lost a member of your crew. What do you do? Again, it was another unexplored time.
His talk, Worf's talk with Gowron, which I believe happened in Reunion, if I'm not mistaken, when he's telling him about Duras, when he's telling him about what the council knew, and Gowron's react, the council knew, like, oh, he's pissed. Oh, he's pissed. The council knew that Duras's father sold out to the Romulans, and they didn't do anything about it. They blame Worf, and he still can't give Worf his commendation back. He still can't give him his honor. He can't return his family's honor. And the deal he makes, how he teams up with Gowron, and Picard's not happy about this. He wants to see Worf's honor returned and his family's honor returned, but he's like, you are a Starfleet officer. You've got to stay out of it. You can't be in the middle of this. You can't represent Starfleet and be in the middle of a Klingon civil war at the same time. You have responsibilities.
See, you bring up a point. Hearing your Gowron impression, it makes me think of later on in DS9. when Gowron came on in DS9, he felt more like a caricature of himself.
Yes.
He didn't feel like the Gowron that I knew and loved. I mean, he did in when he first came on DS9, in Way of the Warrior Part 1 and Part 2. When he basically tells Cisco, fuck off. I loved that. I don't feel, and maybe even to the point with the founders, when they are trying to kind of make the peace with the Federation. Maybe even then it still feels Gowron-esque, but not quite the Gowron that I came to care for here. But by the time you get to season 7 of DS9, it doesn't feel like the Gowron that I know and love. And I feel like they wrote him that way intentionally, so they could pass the torch to Martog. And I don't know if that's supposed to speak something of the Klingon culture, is to say that all Klingons eventually get corrupted, or what? Because I mean, the council wasn't always corrupt, but they became that way. And Gowron wasn't always corrupt, but he became that way. But here, or if it was just bad writing, maybe I'm giving the writers too much credit, but I don't like the direction that they took Gowron. But going back to these episodes and watching, or listening to your impression of Gowron reminded me of how much I really loved the Gowron character in this season. It's looked back with fond memories, and it's not just nostalgia. It was really a great written character who was done with passion, that I don't feel was there in the latter part of DS9. As a person who studies the Klingon culture, to a higher degree than I do, do you think that assessment of Gowron is correct?
Yes. Yes. No, he had a laser focus. In the first episode, we get him in with Duras and Reunion, all the way through TNG. Anytime you see Gowron, it's number one, it's the eyes. It's like Garrick, how they talk about Garrick, the eyes in DS9, his eyes, and how laser focused and together he is. He is not playful at all. He is this is business. I am a warrior. Let's get down to business. Are we going to fight to the death, or are we going to sit here and talk? And then when you get him in the Way of the Warrior, it's a totally different ball game, Worf! You have many enemies in the Empire, but I am not one of them. It's almost a different character.
Yeah.
You've gotten this put together. I don't smile, I don't get angry, I'm just business. I am a Klingon that is I'm a Klingon that's all about business. We're gonna go to war, and we're gonna drink, and we're gonna have a good time, and it's party time. Yeah, you've got laser focused business Gowron, and then you've got we're gonna kill a whole bunch of people, let's have a good time Gowron.
See, I could forgive if it was just that one moment because he's so overjoyed to see Worf. I could forgive it if it was just that one time where it's like, well, it's an out of character moment because of the circumstances, and so okay, I can overlook that. But he's written very inconsistent in DS9, and I felt in TNG he was very consistent. And again, it's someone that, he's written, his heritage to Klingon culture is consistent. His internal logic is consistent. I guess that's it. His internal logic is consistent because, you look at Worf, he's internally logical, and that's consistent. Same thing with, his motivations and everything. And I guess that's it. In DS9, I don't know what his motivations are. Whereas here, you clearly know where he stands. You know where his motivations are. Like, it makes complete sense for that character, and you believe it. And you can sit there and think, what would Gowron be doing in this circumstance, and then go forward. Whereas in DS9, it's just all over the place, and you don't really know. And to me, that doesn't make good drama. It just makes it confusing for a character. And I feel like that's something DS9 got a lot of things right. And that's my favorite series. But I feel like with Gowron, I really wish they wouldn't have brought the character on, because I felt like, especially in the latter seasons, they really got the character wrong. I don't like him in that show. So
The actor that plays Gowron, did you ever see the interview where he was talking about Martok the first time he worked with him, and how he said he knew he said, I knew as soon as I worked with him the first time, I said, I've got to watch out because they're going to write my character out and they're going to bring him in. He knew immediately. He was like, if I'm not careful, they're going to replace me with this guy because he's really good.
no, I didn't see that. No.
It's in one of the behind the scenes of Way of the Warrior. If you have it on DVD, because it's not on Blu-ray, but he talks about that in Way of the Warriors. When I met him and when I worked with him, I said, I've got to be really careful because he's going to end up, if this continues, he's going to end up replacing me. He knew right away, and I don't know. I don't think that had anything to do with it, but how bombastic he is in Way of the Warrior compared to what he is in both of the episodes in the season, almost a totally different character.
Yeah, to me, I was looking more at the latter season of DS9, but you're absolutely right. When he sees Worf the first time, he's almost like a cackling idiot. It's almost like you look at Jack Nicholson Joker, where he's very threatening, very, he may laugh, but he's in your face and it's very creepy. But then, you look at the other version of the Joker and it's, Jack Napier, or it's Cesar Romero, just, ooh, and you're like, what the? You can't take it seriously. And that's the difference between the two Gowrons. You look at, Gowron and TNG, and he's very, he's in your face and he's very, stunning character. But then you get to the Way of the Warrior and he's just laughing all over the place. And you're like, whoa, dude, the way your head's bobbling back and forth, you're going to get neck trauma, Gowron. Like, it's a good thing you got that Klingon spine to fall back on, because stabilize yourself there, Gowron. But what do you think, Rambling? Because I'm chatting an awful lot here, man. I'm sorry.
I am just dealing with something. But yeah, I mean, Gowron, to me, I did like a little bit of his story arc in DS9, but he was good in TNG. I always liked the Klingons.
The only time he really loses his shit in TNG is when Worf tells him about Duras. He is always cool, calm, collective. He's always got his shit together in TNG. He's never, like you said, acts like a cackling idiot at all in TNG. All right, the only time he really loses it is in Redemption. Go ahead, Canuck.
Sorry there, brother. I gotta jump off because my ride's here and the lake is calling, and if I don't have my fishing rod in the lake in about an hour and a half, I'm going to be grumpy.
Brother, you have a great fishing trip, man. Wish I was there with you.
All right, take it easy, folks. I gotta go fishing.
No, that's that he's very composed in TNG, and he's just not that way, and that was, in especially in this episode, and you're absolutely right when he says, the council knew. You take that as opposed to almost any line he says in The Way of the Warrior. And it's stark contrast. And again, this was, I liked the writing in both those episodes. I think The Way of the Warriors is a great Klingon episode. I just don't think it's a very good Gowron episode. And that was the one thing that I enjoyed about season 4, is the fact that it built up so many good characters. Reestablishing older characters, and pushing them forward. Like you look at lore, what it does. It took from Data lore, put them in Brothers, and then moves them toward Descent Part 2, or Part 1, Part 2. So it stabilizes that character and makes him more than just a one-off character. Returning Vash, taking her from that Captain's Holiday, putting her in the Cupid episode, and then moving her on to DS9. whatever that episode was in DS9, where she returns with Q. It's like it's doing all these things. Um, taking these characters. Same thing with Barkley. Establishing Gowron, making him a prominent feature of the next generation. Because how many other episodes did Gowron appear in besides this season? Or was this kind of it?
No, because you've got the episode with Kalis.
Oh, that's right.
I think 2 more, maybe.
Okay, yeah. Then he wasn't. Then he had less appearances than Q. But when you think about reoccurring characters, you think about Gowron.
Yeah.
Enough that he got his own action figure, and this would have taken place at season 5 of Next Gen, where the Playmates came out with their own action figures. When they came out with Picard, Riker, Geordi, Data, LaForge, Worf, and then the Ferengi, Romulan, Borg, and they came out with the Klingon, but it said Gowron, the Klingon. So the Klingon that they came up with was based on Gowron, and it didn't really look like him. You could tell they kind of loosely tried to, but it didn't really look like Gowron. But the name on the box said Gowron the Klingon. So he had a strong enough impact as a character that they're like, let's loosely base the toy on him.
Yeah, he was in 4 episodes of TNG. He was in Reunion, he was in Redemption Part 1 and 2, and he was in Rightful Heir.
That's right. So yeah, it's like the things that season 4 did wonderfully was it really built up secondary characters, while continuing to establish the main crew. And that's a wonderful thing that you can ask for a show that at this point will go on to do 5 years going forward, for a total of 7. You really can't ask for more than that, especially when you look at TOS and you go, they only had 3, and then to establish the Cardassians, because I think at this point they had to have known they were doing DS9. I think that's why they established the Cardassians.
Yes, and the Bajorans. Yeah.
Because you go back to that episode. Not what was it? What's the one? What is the episode with the heavily O'Brien episode with the Cardassian? The one where they're hunting
the wounded.
Captain.
The wounded.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if that was the name of the episode or not, but that right there, that's one of the best episodes ever. Just looking at post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
And with Captain
O'Brien.
Maxwell. Yeah.
And O'Brien, because they that would go into DS9 as well. Him talking about pulling out that phaser, or he was in a fight with a Cardassian and a civilian threw him a phaser. He used it and it vaporized the Cardassian. And that's the first time O'Brien had ever killed anything. And it tore his ass up. It tore his ass up. What happened?
Well, he's like, he said, I don't hate you, Cardassian. I hate what you turned me into.
Yes.
And that's anyone that's been in war, or has been in a violent situation, those words are powerful words. I think that echoes through, and anyone can see themselves in that situation. And that's one thing TNG always got right, is no matter how bad the episode is, you could always find little sound bites that you'd say, I know the rest of the episode was crap, but I really liked that sound bite. I really got something from that moment. That heart to heart, I really got something out of, and that's what this season, for me, I would say, season 4, it has a special place in my heart because, being a Wesley Crusher fan, he was on the bridge, he was in a full uniform, he wasn't in that gray, ugly spandex looking thing, he was in a full uniform. To me, this was this was great for me, because I'm like, man, everybody's in uniform. This is cool, and then he fucking left, and I'm like, oh, damn it. But hold on just one second.
No
Who's
problem.
driving by? Okay. But to me, I think, if I look at it objectively, I think season 5 has the better episodes. But like season 3, season 4, season 5 is just downright perfect track. Because they're just great episodes all around. Doesn't get any better than that, especially for, TNG, season 3, season 4, season 5 are great storytelling, you know. Um, the only thing that would make it better is if it was serialized storytelling,
If they connected it, yes.
Yeah.
It's episodic track.
Yeah. The only thing that I would say, yeah, the only thing that DS9 had up on next gen was the fact that it was serialized. It had that going for it. And there's some seasons that I think DS9 did better, some story arcs that I think DS9 did better. But if you go season 3, season 4, season 5 of next gen, I mean, those are. I think the Dominion arc of DS9. I think season 3, season 4, season 5 of next gen, and then like seasons 3 and 4 of Enterprise are some of the best Star Trek that we've ever had. They focus on characters, they focus on sub characters, and it's just great world building and the quality of the writing of each episode, even the slow episodes, you're thoroughly entertained. So
what I loved about TNG and DS9 both was that it all connected. It was one giant story. You had O'Brien in DS9, you had Worf, all these characters that interacted. You had Thomas Riker come by. You had Picard in the very first episode of DS9. But it all felt connected and one. When the Odyssey got destroyed, like you said, right at the beginning of the Dominion War, when the Odyssey gets kamikaze by Jem'Hadar fighters, that's a Galaxy class starship. If that would have been the Enterprise would have been destroyed. That would
yeah,
have been
well, it was very symbolic. And like I said several weeks ago, or on another show, like I always tell people that, and I feel like that I feel like I say that ad nauseum. Like it was very symbolic at the time, when you had the Odyssey destroyed in the episode The Jem'Hadar, because that was the same time that All Good Things was playing. And it was very symbolic for, hey, the next generation just ended, and on DS9 you have a Galaxy class starship being destroyed. That's symbolism right there. I don't care. I don't care what you think of Star Trek. The symbolism of DS9 destroying a Galaxy class starship, that's never been done before. I mean, yes, the Yamato, whatever.
nothing in
But
battle, though. Yeah, nothing in a battle.
No, and this, to me, I mean, they, they said they're showing us how far they're willing to go. Okay, but it's what the writers are telling you flat out. This is a new era of Star Trek. The days of not having a battle, the days of playing it safe, the days of Picard's nice words and getting out of this, but those days are over. We just destroyed a Galaxy class ship. I mean, that's symbolism to the highest. In my, I was flipping out at lunch every day at school, like trying to get guys, don't you understand how big this is? And nobody understood. Those who understood my reference, they really didn't see it. I love the fact that you do.
The when the Romulans showed up at Deep Space Nine, I went balls to the walls crazy. I did. I was running through the house, absolutely going nuts because it was huge. It was huge. This is what the Organians talked about. If you knew your Trek, you knew that this is the time when the Klingons, the Federation, and the Romulans come together against a common enemy. And that would be extended later because the Romulans don't immediately join the Federation. It takes Cisco living with it. Can I live with it? I can live with it.
Right.
It takes that to get the Romulans into the war against the Klingon or against the Dominion. But once that happens, so it's you knew, I know, we know where they're going. There's going to be a giant ass fight. And that fight's happening with the Romulans, the Klingons, the Federation against their common enemy. And I love that. The races of the Alpha Quadrant coming together to work side by side against an enemy that will destroy them and control them if they don't.
Well, again, Star Trek has always been best when it shows, real world issues, just in that sci-fi setting. And eventually there's going to come a time when, we're all going to have to band together and put aside our differences. I forget who asked, I think it was Ronald Reagan, had asked how much our differences would, how quickly we'd put aside our differences if an alien force came and, was basically invading. And I loved the fact that he posed that question: how quickly we would put our differences aside if there was an outside force. That's a real question, because yes, we have our differences in either political systems or religious systems or some simple ideologies, but those things, it doesn't change. You and I don't agree on every little thing. Do we like pepperoni pizza, or do we like, veggie pizza, or is it, meat lovers or whatever, like, we don't have to agree on every little thing to stand by each other.
Right.
And that's the same thing. And that's what people tend to forget on either politics or religion or whatever the case. Like, we don't have to agree on every little thing, but we do have to stand by each other. And that's something that when Star Trek gets it right, it gets it right.
Yes.
And those things right there, that's the hope that Star Trek gives, is that we can learn those things even in the face of defeat, and that we can overcome the odds that are put in front of us. Because there are days out there where it's like, man, it feels so overwhelmingly distraught, but that we can get past it, and that the world will get better, because there's a lot of good out there, but, sometimes there's not a lot of hope. But that's something that Star Trek gets right. So
is hope, yes, and a better future. Picard talks about that a couple of times, and especially in First Contact, where he's talking to Cochrane's co-pilot about working to better ourselves. We don't have money. We don't have any of that. We work to better ourselves. We work to better humanity and all races. It's not just about individuals anymore.
Yeah. So Arwen Avalon says there is a Star Trek and an episode for everyone, and that is exactly it. And that's one reason why I don't get mad. Like, I hate Voyager. It's to me, I can't stand it. But
I can't go back and watch it. I've tried. I can watch TNG. I can watch DS9. I can't get into watching Voyager.
Oh my goodness. You love pepperoni and banana peppers on a pizza too? My goodness. I now know where to come to eat that pizza, because I love that too. Yes, extra cheese on that bad boy, and you are in heaven. Yes, I absolutely agree with you on that. That is, nobody else ever eats it that way. Yes, 100%. You are correct. Pepperoni and banana peppers. Yes, I agree 100%. No, to me, like, I don't like that. I don't like Voyager. But Mona loves Voyager. Like, that is her go-to Star Trek. But I can still find some episodes in there that are okay, that are good, that I find enjoyable. But it is still, that's not my Star Trek. To me, DS9, that's my Star Trek. My second would be Next Gen.
Agreed.
Voyager is probably Voyager rates up there probably with some of the new Trek. I'll watch it if it's on. Depends on the episode. If I got something else to do, that might take precedence. Um, we need words.
Louise Sparrow loves Voyager. She does, and no, we're not. Yeah, we're not railing on you, Louise.
No, no.
That's your
Absolutely
favorite.
not.
I'm a DS9 guy. Cisco will always be my favorite captain.
Mine
and
too,
it's because of his emotions.
But for me, that it's proving the point that Miss Avalon said earlier, that there's a Star Trek and an episode for everybody. And the reason why I'm not harsh on new Star Trek is the same reason I'm not hard on Voyager. Like it is not my Trek. I don't like Voyager, but it still has that right to be there. It still has that right,
yes,
to exist. And it just like new Trek, when someone says, well, JJ Trek is not Star Trek, like I can't sit there and take that from somebody, because if that's what brought them into Star Trek, how can I take that from somebody? Just because some old fart, that is too hung up on old cardboard and plywood sets from the 1960s, and that's their only interpretation of Star Trek, and anything outside that is not true Star Trek. Well, define true Star Trek. Because to me, anything that makes you explore your horizons outside of, what is now is Trek. And I don't care if that's the Cage era Star Trek, or if it's Next Gen, or if it's the JJ stuff, or even if it's Star Trek Discovery or fucking Lower Decks. Anything that helps you expand your horizon and gives you hope for the future is good enough for me, even if it's not my taste of Star Trek. There's enough for everybody. So enjoy yourself, and it's kind of like when you go to a potluck and you're like, I'll try a little of this, I'll try a little of that. I'm not good. I don't like green beans, so I'm going to stay away from that. So you enjoy that, more for you. I'm not going to take your green beans, and that's the same thing here. So why people rag on certain Star Treks just because they exist, I don't get it. To me, it's just like, live and let live, but I digress.
No. And it's an excellent point. Hope for the future. And I guess maybe that's why I have such a problem with Discovery, is it's not a hopeful future. It's a very sad, very horrible future that they are looking at. And I don't like that. I don't like that. Oh, well, the Federation is going to become this horrible thing, and you shouldn't look at it like it's a good thing anymore. I don't like that. I don't like that view. That was never what Star Trek was about. That's never what Star Trek was supposed to be. As off as Gene Roddenberry was with some of this stuff, some of the stuff that he didn't want to happen in Star Trek and he didn't want them doing, his hopeful future where, well, we don't bicker and we don't do these petty things, that was very, very thought provoking. And well, everybody kind of gets along. There should be no drama with the crew. Well, that doesn't make good television, but that's a very hopeful outlook of what the future could be and what humanity could become.
See, to me, I feel as if I think Discovery would be right at home in the Battlestar Galactica world. Which I love Battlestar Galactica, the remake. I've never saw the original, so forgive me for anybody who loves the original and doesn't like the remake. So I have no frame of reference for the original, but I loved the remake. that to me is really good television. They had wonderful drama, great characters, wonderful stories. But to me, once you put that in the Star Trek universe, it's no longer like that's not Star Trek to me. And I don't enjoy those stories as much. So to me, um, it's one of those things where it tells Star Trek stories in a Star Trek universe. I mean, you can still have. I don't agree with Gene Roddenberry where people shouldn't fight. There shouldn't be any bickering between characters, And I think people take that. I think people take that too literally, because I mean, if you look at Bones and Spock, they bickered.
Yep.
So I think they take it too literally. Like there can never be an argument. Like I don't think he ever meant that to be the case, and I think that means I don't think he ever meant that to be the case. However, if you do watch TNG season 1, and that was a little sterile for my taste. So I mean, you can kind of make the case, well, no, Gene didn't want there to be any fighting, So the case can be made either way, but I don't think he really meant there to be no drama between the crew. Because I mean, again, look at Spock, look at McCoy. It's one thing to have bickering, kind of real life discussions on something, and opposing views. He did that, but there's a difference between that and what Discovery does. And again, for those that like Discovery, that's not knocking your like for it. It's just tonally, it's very different. It's not the same. Again, it fits very well in a Battlestar Galactica world, but for Trek, I just don't think it fits. That's my viewpoint, though.
And you can feel that way. And then anybody who says any different, smoking crack. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for
Absolutely.
hanging out with us. Thank you for talking with us. I love getting to do these, guys. We will be back next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is going to be the last show I do for the week. Mexican Iron Man is going to have some surprises for you next week because I am moving. So I will be gone Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And hopefully, if everything goes well, I will be back Monday. So next week I will be here Monday. I will be here Tuesday for this show. And then I won't be back till the next week. Everyone, I hope you've had a great time. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening to us go on and on about Star Trek. Mexican Iron Man says, you guys rock. Thank you so much, Mexican Iron Man. Thank you, everyone, for the super chats. You guys rock and keep the fires here in Valhalla burning bright. Thank you. I hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday. We'll be back for the comic book roundtable. Tonight, we're going to have Mandy Summers on, and that was going to be over on Heiress of Chaos's channel this week. She will be hosting the comic book roundtable this week, and of course, we'll have Mandy Summers on. Everyone, take care. Have an awesome day, and we will catch you guys next time.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.